I have some news, and it's about coin listings absolutely exploding in the first half of 2021. So according to data shared with CoinDesk from data aggregator CoinMarketCap, there were about 2,655 new crypto assets added to its database, bringing the total number listed on that site thus far to 10,810, which is just an absolutely stunning number to see listed in the first half of 21, but also raises a huge host of questions. Jen, I want to toss this one to you for your initial thoughts on this story and what this might say about the remainder of the year, let's say.
I'm actually surprised that the regulators didn't scare people away and that we saw these numbers jump the way we did. You know, there was a part of the story that pointed towards this, hold on, let me just pull it up here, towards scams, raising out of funds and failing to raise, running out of funds and failing to raise funds as some of the reasons why some of these coins disappeared. And I didn't think that was very surprising. You know, when I think about startups, those are all woes that plague startups. So it wasn't really anything surprising for me. When you talk about the rest of the year, I really think that regulation is going to dissuade companies from launching their own token. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I wasn't really surprised to see any of the information in this report. I'll kick it off to Will. Will is nodding knowingly.
I'm just going to say something that's going to piss off Naomi. That's why. It's interesting to see like this number of tokens being listed. I mean, it makes sense. It's super easy to list a token, and with something like Uniswap and all the clones of Uniswap, it's very easy to provide liquidity for that token now, or at least a semblance of liquidity. And so you have all these scam coins just floating around. And I think like the benefit to this is you might have some tokens that in some future use case have some value and have some utility. We have a few of those after the 2017 ICO pump and dump. But now, like looking at 2021, like this is a lot of tokens. And to me, it's like there's always this argument that Bitcoin's dominance just kind of gets knocked by having all these scam coins out there because there's only so much liquidity that moves into the crypto space. And if those dollars are chasing random tokens that have no developer team behind them instead of real projects like Bitcoin or Ethereum, then you just kind of hurt the ecosystem overall. That's kind of my initial takeaway from this, but I want to hear Naomi's thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always hesitant to use the word scam as like a brush to paint over everything because it does numb people to actually delving into real scams out there, and there are a lot. But I will say that, you know, money is this interesting phenomenon where we have this myopic, strange view that there can only be one, right? And we don't think of that when we think of toothpaste or deodorant or other products out there. We have differentiation. We have products that do slightly different things. Maybe they both smell like lavender, but they do it in a slightly different way and they have different packaging and all this. And we're fine with that. We're fine with having all of those options out there, and we don't call one a scam just because it's a knockoff of another one. You know, we're just like, well, these are options and the market can decide. But money is different. You know, it's slightly different because in order to prove whether or not the money product is good, you need network effect. Like to prove whether or not the deodorant's good, you just use it and you're like, this is a good product or this is a shitty product, you know? But with money, it needs longevity. It needs to exist in the world for a long enough period of time to see whether people are going to adopt it, because the purpose of money, oftentimes, you know, you need that network effect. Now, obviously, these are not all monies. These are products that are fundamentally trying to be and do different things, very specific things. They are, you know, optimizing in certain areas, whether they're offering lending platforms or whether they're offering interest or whether they're doing other things, they're tokenizing certain things, or whether they're securities or whatnot. Like there are very different products. So we also should be careful not to package it all into one thing and just call it a coin as if that's like a single entity, because it's not. These are the fundamentally different issues. But again, like because it's so difficult to verify whether these products are good or bad, like because they might fail before they can get that network effect, I think it's very easy for people to just throw the scam word on top of it and say, see, it didn't go anywhere, there's a scam. I think it's a little more nuanced than that. We should be mindful there are a lot of scams in this space, but we should also be mindful that there are just some failed projects, and we don't necessarily call all startups scams just because they fail. But Ben, I'll throw this to you because I saw your hand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Jen, I think you were referencing like the ICO boom in 2017 that we saw, and that was regards to like 3/4 of those maybe not delivering on kind of what they talked about. And I think for me, what this raises is, I feel like it reminds me of like, the kind of facsimile about restaurants, for example, where it's about 80% of them closed within the first 5 years of them coming into existence. And I think that's quite also the case with crypto. And Naomi, to your point, I think it's a fair point to
because
say.
Because they're scams, Ben. They're scam restaurants.
Well,
they're
if you
just
walk
trying
away
a
with money,
thing. Let them try.
Bad tokens
80% of
taste
them
the
fail,
same, is my opinion.
but the founders walk away with millions of dollars.
No, but I think
That's a
maybe
good point,
the
Will.
scam aspect of Naomi and like the broad brush here, you're right that it's important to try new things. And I think that's the goal of many a startup, right? Like they're trying to fix a certain problem, and failure is okay. Like we talk about this a lot, and I talk about this in my tech reporting, is just like tech is iterative, and if it breaks or it gets hacked or something like that, it's getting battle tested, right? It's okay for it to move forward, even if that's the case. I think the problems come in where you have like Shiba Inu coin or some other things, for example, that just get dumped onto the market, get airdropped to Vitalik, and there's not really a particular use case for them, and they're not trying to solve a particular problem. They're just like capitalizing on Dogecoin memedom. And that's, when you have people like YOLOing all their savings into it, or you have people sort of like,
don't do that.
capitalizing on economics, it gets really, really tricky. And I think, those are the first people to cry kind of scam when a token goes south. So some of them I feel like are absolutely trying to solve a specific problem. Some of them are a little bit more of this meme economy that we've talked about many a time on this show. I don't know. Those are kind of my thoughts on this initial boom.
I think that's a great point. And I definitely don't want to whitewash the scams. Like, let's hate on the scams.
For sure.
Definitely, for sure. And be careful with your savings. Don't YOLO it all into one of these strange things. My goodness.